Why is it that sometimes people have their permission slips and it works in very short periods of time?
Yes.
And other people, it might take 20 or 30 years of practicing with their permission slip
Because
and
it's based
nothing.
on their belief system.
They seem to believe.
Seem to believe and believing, two different things.
Sometimes it happens out of the blue to them.
That's because they have a true belief, a true knowing. The idea is that knowing is above belief. Remember, knowing and action are synonymous. The things you know are true, you just do. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to believe. You don't have to wonder if you believe. You just do it because you know it's true. And there are certain areas of your life that may happen in, where other areas of your life it won't, because people have made a difference between those areas. But the idea is that when something transforms, it's because you believe or know that it can, and thus it does. If it takes longer, then either you believe it must, or it serves you that it does, somehow. That's why we created the permission slip originally, that we call the threshold of believability. Do you remember this tool?
Briefly refresh my memory.
Thank you, I will. The idea of the threshold of believability is this. Ask yourself if you believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, without a moment's hesitation whatsoever, that a certain amount of time, let's say 20 years, is more than enough time for the kind of transformation you prefer to occur. If without hesitation at all, even for a microsecond, you can say, oh yes, 20 years, that's more than enough time for that kind of transformation to occur. Then lower the amount of time. Is 10 years enough time for that transformation to occur? Oh yes, I believe, no problem whatsoever. I have no shadow of a doubt that 10 years is more than enough time for that kind of transformation to occur. Do you believe 5 years? 5 years, yes, no problem at all. How about 3? Well, maybe. As soon as you hesitate to answer absolutely, instantly, that's how long it will take with your current belief system. Then you go into the belief system and say, what would I have to believe is true in order for it to take that kind of time? Once you find that belief and have let go of that belief, take the test again and see if you can go past that mark. 3 years, not a problem, not an issue. With my new belief system, I can see how easy it would be to transform in that time. 2 years, yes, not a problem. 1 year, as soon as you hesitate again, go in and find the belief system that says it will take that long and see if you can let that go. When you have cleaned out all those beliefs, whatever time is actually left is the time it actually needs to take for you to actually experience what you prefer to experience in that particular transformational experience.
All right, and next question. Thank you on that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Let's see how I can answer it. I go to a variety of different channelers.
Yes.
And one of the channelers...
Do you go to yourself, too?
Say again?
Do you go to yourself, too? Because you and everyone is also the first and best channeler for yourself. You are always, first and foremost, your own best guide. So when you say you go to a variety of channelers, make sure you do not omit yourself as one of them.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
And so?
So you say be the example.
Yes.
So, for example, one of the channelers said, if we want to lose weight,
Yes.
we can practice forgiveness. And
That might be
forgiveness
one way.
is powerful.
That might be one way.
If we want to lose 20 pounds, for example,
Yes,
we
yes.
could practice forgiveness.
Yes.
How would we practice forgiveness for it to be effective?
Because many times when people have physical weight issues, it's because they are literally waiting to be themselves. They're holding on to their energy and afraid to be who they really are because they don't believe they deserve it. They believe they're unworthy. And so when they forgive themselves for having had those negative definitions that have limited them and let those things go through self-forgiveness, then they may no longer wait. They may no longer hesitate. And by flowing the energy of their true selves through them, then they can stop waiting.
Thank you.
And they will lose weight.
Thank
sense?
you. All right.
Does that help?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. In many cases, you can take advantage of the wonderful synchronicities of your own language in these issues. Wait.
Hello, my name is Robert.
And good day to you.
I must say I'm very happy to hear that business about the weight because I definitely have to work on that myself. So
all right.
Thank you for that advice.
You are welcome. Speak up.
I must admit that I am unfamiliar with you. My apprentice only...
What a coincidence. I am unfamiliar with you.
Oh, I just love this guy, don't you? And my apprentice brought me to your attention, or you to my attention, about 3 days ago.
All right.
He couldn't really tell me a great deal about you, but I was wondering if you could... Now, you said that you were in a ship that I believe was geosynchronous above Sonora?
It's not in a geosynchronous orbit, which would be 22,300 miles above your planet, but it is holding steady above Sedona.
I like that. But my question right now is, well, say, for instance, we are here right now.
Yes.
And you are speaking, and you came through kind of like on time. Do you have a work schedule that you have an appointment book, say, for instance?
Nope. Everything with us in our civilization is synchronicity. We always know we will be at the right place at the right time, exactly when we need to be there, not a second before, not a second later.
Well, that must make it nice not to have conflicting events. But I also have another question. Are you, within your societal structure, an ambassador by order or
I am a first contact specialist, yes.
In that within the structure of your society, is that your only duty?
It is my family lineage. I am also a pilot and an explorer. I am also a sculptor.
Oh, wow. I'd like to see your work, but I'm afraid you can't bring it with you. The next thing I'd like to know...
Well, you can see it in your mind if I describe one of the things.
Now?
Yes, if you wish.
Go ahead.
Oh, all right. One of the things I have created as a sculptor is what you would call a double-banded helical spiral out of a type of crystalline nanomaterial, you would probably call it, that actually spirals up from the ground to about a distance you would call 1 mile above the planet. That is one of my sculptures.
A physical sculpture?
A physical sculpture.
I saw something, but probably not as good as what it would be if I were
That's all right. You can think of the idea of a DNA spiral and you'll be close.
Excellent. The next thing I'd like to know is there on your craft a structure of command dynamic, shall we say, that exists? Do you have like a captain or a cook?
The pilots, well, we don't eat anymore. We don't sleep anymore. So we don't need cooks in that sense anymore. We used to eat in that way that you do, but we have evolved beyond that. We're becoming what we call quasi-physical. Nevertheless, we don't really have a hierarchical structure in the way that your planet does, but the idea is that every ship is itself a sentient being. And the idea is that the pilot of the ship, in that sense, is bonded to the ship telepathically. Thus, then, only the pilot can fly it, because only the pilot can communicate with that particular ship, which is, in a sense, a physicalized symbol of the pilot's own higher mind. Does that make sense in your language?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Quite well.
This is why, if you were to board one of our ships, you would see the idea of the so-called control console, but it would be completely blank. It would be a whitish crystalline material that would look completely devoid of any controls. That's because in the telepathic connection between the pilot and the ship, the pilot is the only one that can see the control.
Ah, that makes perfect sense. Well, to me.
Oh, all right. Makes perfect sense to us, too. That's why we do it.
Let's see. Where else was I going to go? I'm sorry. You said that your organization was...
Organization?
My
civilization in our ancient language, which we no longer really use that much, is called Sasani, meaning place of living light. Sasani being the people.
Okay. I'll have to absorb that. It's going to take me a little while.
But it is in another dimension, a slightly alternate reality from yours, another frequency from yours. But if we were to overlap our physical reality with your physical reality, you would be able to set a course to our world by going about 500 light years in the direction of your constellation of Orion.
Okay.
But you cannot see our star from your reality because we're in a different dimensional plane at a different frequency domain, just as we have to shift to your frequency domain to interact with your reality physically as well.
Yeah, actually, that was rather simple to understand.
Yes.
Now, I have another question.
Yes.
I take it that there are a number of shall we call them species, races, or whatever, that are looking at us at this particular time.
Yes.
There was one that, again, my apprentice brought to my attention because he's always showing me things and I'm teaching him all kinds of stuff all the time. The galactic, get up here and I have a senior moment, everything. The Galactic Federation. Have you ever heard of those?
What we call the Interstellar Alliance. But there are actually many different kinds of alliances, many different kinds of what you might term federations or associations or alliances. So there is actually more than one. We belong to an alliance that has obviously got members, such as ourselves, interacting with you. There are other alliances that have other members interacting with your world to some degree as well.
Well, I'm thinking that I'm getting the impression that we have in your group of peoples who are trying to raise the consciousness of our humanity here on the planet. Now, are we looking at the same from just about all the others, or are we...
There are different agendas for different beings, although a large number of the beings that you are aware of have your interests at heart in terms of helping you become more of yourselves, yes.
Oh, I'm very glad to hear that, but I'm kind of worried about the ones that may be out there that don't.
But you see, that's the dichotomy. Because if you spend time focused on the idea of the negative intentions, you actually lock yourself into the frequency where you make it more probable that that's what you will experience. This is why we share with you the ideas. It doesn't really matter what anyone else's intention is. The meaning and the vibration you give to life will determine what you manifest and what you align yourself with, and thus what you experience. So the idea is it's all well and good to be aware that there might be negatively intentioned individuals, but if you start being afraid of it, you actually lock yourself into the same vibration in which they operate, and that makes it more likely you will experience them instead of someone who has your best interests.
Well, thank you very much. That was very good.
You're welcome! Again, this is all just vibrational physics. Like vibration to like vibration. You cannot perceive something you are not the vibration of. So if you're of a completely different frequency, then those things that are not compatible with that vibration cannot find you. You are invisible to them.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
My name is Noah.
Oh, all right.
I'm from Israel.
All right. Speak
And
up, speak up.
I would like to know how you see this, the future of this country.
Well, again, remember, there is no such thing as a prediction of the future. There are an infinite number of probable future realities based on where your energy collectively decides to go. And that can be changing every moment. In general, there are certain things that a lot of you have a lot of momentum behind, a lot of energy behind, and therefore they may have a high degree of probability of becoming manifest. In other words, you may have a high degree of probability of shifting to the parallel Earth that already exists that's representative of the shift within you. That's what's actually happening. So when you say the future of the world, it doesn't really make sense to us because what you're actually doing is never changing the world you're on. You're changing the vibration within yourself and shifting to a parallel Earth that's already representative of the change you made within yourself. The world that you were on still exists and may be going down another path, but you won't be participating that path anymore if you have shifted to a reality that is of a different vibration. Does that make sense? First of all, the idea, however, is to answer your question more directly, is that in the way you perceive the future to exist, which is again only another version of the now, the idea is that you have a lot of momentum behind certain things, one of which is the idea of transformation, one of which is the idea of contact with other civilizations, and that's why we can say with a higher degree of probability that it seems likely, highly probable, that sometime between your year of 2025 and 2033, somewhere in there, you have a high degree of probability of actually finally having open contact with extraterrestrial civilizations on your planet, which will mean you have achieved a degree of shifting to a vibration that will make that more likely. But that's only because you have a high degree of energy momentum behind that particular probability that we can even say that that window even exists. In other words, to put it more simply, if that wasn't the case, it's likely we wouldn't be having this conversation. Make sense? Because this is a first contact scenario. One of the ways in which we make first contact with civilizations is to have these dialogues, have these discussions, share information. And we use the rate at which you take this information to heart and make it your own and change yourselves. We use that as a barometer for when you're ready for more contact.
Okay.
Because we're never going to force ourselves on you. You have to be the ones to decide that you're actually ready. And I know many of you think you are, but you're not. So relax. The timing is what it is. So the idea is, again, obviously you're having contact now. And that will be part of what you call the future of your world.
I meant the conflicts with in the Middle East.
As I said, the idea is that you have a lot of momentum behind certain things. You can resolve them in certain ways. It is, after all, your planet, is it not?
Right.
Well, then the idea is to put out there with love and compassion actions that are representative of that transformational idea. Start sharing the ideas of self-empowerment. The only reason that conflicts exist on your planet is because people feel disempowered. They've been taught to believe they have no power. They've been taught to believe they're disconnected from source, which isn't possible. And so anyone that feels disconnected from source, disconnected from their power, will feel powerless, will feel out of control, will feel alone, will feel like a victim, will feel miserable. And if they have no connection or no idea of their connection to their own inner power or to source, then the only way they can imagine gaining power is to manipulate the external reality and force others to see things their way. Remember, you have a saying on your planet, misery loves company. It takes a victim to make a victim. So the idea is that when you see people perpetrating what you would call negative acts on others and creating conflicts around your world, those people believe they are victims and they are acting out and lashing out because they want to create as many victims as they can so they won't be alone. So they will feel connected. But you can teach them by example that they can connect in another way. You can teach them that the idea of having to force yourself on someone actually means you don't believe in the power of what you believe in. Because if you did, you would realize that the greatest power of all requires the gentlest touch. Because if it's truly powerful, it doesn't have to exert itself at all. Look at the idea of what you call creation, all that is, God. It is so powerful, so all-pervasive, you actually can believe it doesn't exist. That's how light a touch it has. Because it doesn't need to have a broader touch than that. Because it doesn't need to, because it is everything that exists. So what power does it need to exert over itself? None. So the idea is that when you teach people that they are aspects, they are projections, they are versions of all that is, of creation itself, they are self-empowered as beings, they will not need to foist their ideas on anyone, and there will be no conflict in that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that help you?
Thank you.
Thank you.